Hello guys, hello girls, and welcome to my review of the 2021 Canyon Spectral CF 29er that I received 2 weeks ago and that I've been trying without really knowing if I was going to keep the bike or not. Spoiler alert, I will not keep the bike, it will go back to Canyon, which is quite surprising because this bike did check every boxes that I wanted for a enduro bike between randonnée in France and enduro races. So in this video we're going to talk about what's great about this bike, and I'm going to show you a lot of things with the build, with the initial feeling, with the finish, the quality, the delivery, etc. And then we're going to talk about what's bad about the bike, the different issues and problems that the bike had, and finally we're going to discuss why I had to send the bike back to Canyon and why in all it's been a very bad experience. So let's start. First, in the plus department we had a very quick delivery from Canyon. As soon as the bike was in stock in their website, I ordered it, and I think 3 working days later or 4 it was to my door in France, in Haute-Savoie next to Annecy. That's an amazing experience. Honestly it went very fast. Then the overall quality and first impression with the delivery package, the big box which the bike is in, the different tools that they're delivering with the bike, the way it's been set up before being put in the box, and how easy it is to assemble the bike with the tools that they're giving you in the box, and how easy it is to set it up is great. It is a great experience. I had YT bikes, direct to consumers as well. I had also some a Commensal Meta 2021. I posted the review on the channel if you want to see it, and none of those brands equals Canyon in the quality of the packaging and the quality of the finish and settings of the bike when you receive it. Neither the box nor the equipment that come with it, none of that is as good as Canyon. So big up, kudos guys, it's a great point. Then I had quick answers from the Canyon customer service. I've been using their live chat to ask questions about the sizing. I've been using the emails to know if the ISCG part to screw an ISCG bash guard was included or not on the bike, and they've been answering quite quickly, less than a day. Great experience again. The finish of the bike, the setup of the bike is great, and you can see that in the details. The hoses of the brakes are the right length, and when you have other brands and you order, when you're a shorter rider like me, shorter bikes, they do not always cut the hose to the right size, so both hoses for the rear brake and the rear shifter speeds are exactly the same, size, and going internally in the frame without one being on top of the other. And Canyon have been extremely good with that, with the bike I received. So again, kudos for that. I also ordered a water bottle holder with their own custom 600 milliliters water bottle, and I was hoping it was going to fit in the size small Canyon Spectral 29er that I ordered, and it did. Actually, those are great parts that I think I'm gonna keep and use on my other bikes later, because the finish is excellent, and the capacity that you have to move this water bottle holder up and down on roughly 4 centimeters is great. And I bought some specialized stuff before, the most recent ones for my Meta AM 2021, and it wasn't nearly as good. So kudos to Canyon for the accessories, you really nailed it. Then the bike, when you ride it, is quite silent. The internal cable routing that I had before on Canyon bike, especially the Spectral 27.5, was super noisy, and on other brands that I had like the YT, it was something I needed to fix as well. Here the internal routing integration is neat and perfectly silent, so that's really great, and I saw in some other reviews that it wasn't the case, but on my bike it was perfect. So really not a noise from the bike, and not a noise from the different cables routing inside the frame. That's excellent. Then there is this ISCG removable part that you can kind of screw on your bottom bracket, and this is super neat because if you're riding more technical and aggressive terrain like I am in the French Alps, then you're gonna have rocks and roots and things like that that are gonna hit your frame or your front cog, and you don't want that because it would destroy the bike very quickly. And then on this bike you don't have ISCG mount. You can still do that with a part that I was wondering if it was going to be included in with the bike or not, because I saw some reviews online that told that it was an additional part that you needed to order, and no, it was delivered with the bike, and I didn't have a chance to try it really, but it's there and it looks good. It seems very well finished, so kudos for that as well. Very cool. Then you have some great brand contact points: the grip, the handlebar, the stem. Those things, I used to be very specific about those, and I still am. I usually buy a 1-up handlebar or rental carbon one. I pick some ODI Rogue grips to be very comfortable during super long descents like the Mountain of Hell or stuff like that, and the stem, it's the same. And here it looks so good that if I were to keep the bike, I wouldn't change them. I wouldn't even swap my previous parts on that, because all from the grip to the handlebar to the stems, it's perfect. And on this small size that I had, because my height is 1.70 m, the stem is 40 millimeter long, and the handlebar is 760 millimeter wide, and I think that for this size it makes perfect sense. It would be the kind of size for components that I would pick myself. I usually buy wider handlebars that I cut to 760, and I think this is perfect. I wouldn't touch anything here, and I wouldn't have to cut the handlebar, so kudos for that. Then the bike on the uphill. So I've been trying my local loop that I know by heart, like 500 meters of climbing, 500 meters of descending for something like 12 kilometers. Here the conditions are super snowy, and the bike seems like a great climber. We'll talk a little bit later about the setup, how I set up the suspensions, etc. But the bike is quite nervous, and it's a great climber. It's got quite a low weight at 13.4 kilograms with the water bottle holder and an empty water bottle on it, and 2 flat pedals that weigh almost 400 grams. When I measured this weight, I left the air tubes in the tires. I didn't put them, set them up tubeless, but yeah, that's a very reasonable weight for the LTD edition in small size. It's quite impressive, really. So kudos for that as well. It's a very efficient climber. Nervous. There is absolutely no pedal bob when you're pushing the bike, or even when you're standing up on it. It climbs very well, but there is a big but that we're going to talk about in the bad part. My bike especially wasn't such a good climber, and I'm going to explain you why later. Then let's talk about the specs in the range and the value for money. This is also a very big plus. I ordered the LTD version because I kind of like blink parts, and I'm lucky enough that I can buy them. So the XM-C 1501 wheels from DT Swiss with the hubs with the ratchet system. The it's the 180 hub. Is the highest end hub that they have. Weight just over 1.5 kilograms in 29 size. For the wheels, it's super low weight, and you can feel that they're quite rigid, and I hope they're solid as well. I didn't have a chance to ride too much with the bike, but they're super precise, that I can tell you. But if I were to keep the bike, I would definitely run at least a Huck Norris tire insert, or probably a cush core, at least at the back, because I wouldn't want to break a carbon wheel, especially with a bike that has those capacities in the descents. Then it's very nice to see Canyon rate this frame for the Enduro World Series kind of test that that it has to pass to really be able to compete in this field. That's one level upper from the previous Spectral, and that means that they're really confident in how strong and rigid and resistant the frame is. So that's a big plus as well. You've got a trail bike that is light and quite efficient pedaler uphill, and you can also trash it as you would trash a Strive during some very serious enduro races. So I like that. Thank you, Canyon. We all like more, slack and capable bikes, and you know that we're gonna hit them hard, and you certify the bike for that. So that's great. Then let's talk about how the bike handles the descents. This is where we start the biggest minus of the biggest problem of this bike, and the reason why I'm going to send it back. So I'm going to talk about everything that have not been good or even been really bad about this bike. And this one, girls, guys, really beware of that, because this issue that I'm going to tell you about cost me 5 months of riding if I wanted to fix that with Canyon. It also cost me a lot of energy, a lot of stress, a lot of disappointment, and at the end of the day it's gonna cost Canyon a customer, because I'm not gonna wait 5 months to have another bike. This issue is the online size calculator that you can find on Canyon website. Let's make this story short. You put your height in centimeters, you put your leg size basically, and they're going to tell you which size you should pick. So I checked it and I put my size, I put my in-stream, and they told me pick a size S, while the website calculated that. Then I went to the geometry chart and I checked. The small size got a reach, meaning a size between basically your torso and your hands on the handlebar. That is 435 millimeters long. And compared to the other bikes I've been riding, it is an extremely short number. So I was surprised. I kind of asked Canyon on the chat, is that really the correct size for me? I'm 1.70 m. I used to ride Commensal Meta AM2021, and for comparison's sake, the Commensal Meta AM2021 for a 1.70 m rider is a much longer bike, 6 centimeters more overall, and for the reach it's a 470 millimeter reach, meaning that it's 3.5 more centimeters. It's a much longer bike up front. And I sold this bike because it's an extraordinary race bike that I reviewed. Again, you can see the video, but I couldn't manual it and I couldn't play around with the bike as much as I would have wanted. But I still want a bike that is stable on the descents and maybe a middle ground. But here, the bike feels so short. It's absolutely wrong. If you were to order a bike from Canyon, do not trust their size charts. I much prefer the way Specialized does that, and even YT, with a very nice graphic telling you, like, if you want a nimble bike and you're this size, then you should pick this frame, and if you want a super stable frame and you're this size, then pick this size for the frame. And so this is much better. This is a much better approach. But here, when I talked to the Canyon customer service on the chat, they were very specific. No, you need a size small. There is no doubt about that. Don't worry about it. Result, the bike is extremely short. When I'm on the climb, I need to fold my arms and try to force on them, and it's exhausting, and my legs should do the work, not my arms. So on the climbs, it's a problem. On the descents, it's an even bigger problem, because you really feel up over the bike and not in the bike, or you don't even have a choice to be over or feel in the bike. With a bike that short, you're up there, and if you want to attack some corners, to be stable at speed, to catch back your mistakes, then it's simply not possible. The bike is way too short. So that's the main reason and I'm very, very sad about it, that I'm gonna have to send this bike back. And I'm kind of angry with Canyon from making such a dumb mistake, because they're a direct to consumer brand, right? And can you tell me why YT nailed the size calculator years ago and Norco did, and Norco is not direct to consumer, but Commensal did nail the right sizes, and then you order a YT and suddenly the bike is not your size at all. So really, guys and girls, be super careful. My experience with this brand and my experience with this bike, despite having had 2 Canyon Strive and 1 Canyon Spectral 27.5 in the last 5 years, because I'm quite familiar with Canyon, they made my experience terrible. So I wasn't sure when I received the bike if it was big enough or not, so I wrote them an email and they told me, yeah, well, you can have a ride with the bike and try it, and you'll return the bike if you want. If you want, we can place an order for you in the size medium, but when I looked at the delivery date, the medium size was only available like in February or March. That will leave me 3 months or more without a bike, and I would have liked to have this simple information as soon as I order the bike. I mean, this is not much to ask. So Canyon, please fix that. This is a very, very, very serious mistake. And if I were to recommend you something, the numbers you need to check is your in-stream, the size between your legs, and check that first. And if your in-stream is compatible with the frame seat tube height or saddle height, then pick, if you can, the biggest bike for your size, for your in-stream. If I checked more about this information, I would have ordered a medium one, and I wish that on the chat they would have told me that, and I wish that on the website information were more clear. Then, regarding this sizing, the other problem that comes up is that, of course, the dropper post is too short. I've got a 150 millimeters one-up dropper post that is very nice. It works really nice actually, but I've got like 7 centimeters out of the frame, and I'm a short rider. Just imagine someone who is not 1.70 m like me, but 1.75 m. Basically, half of the travel of the dropper post would be, putting the dropper post out of the frame. So this person would have like to put the dropper post 15 centimeters out of the frame. That makes no sense. Either pick a dropper post with a bigger travel, or recommend the right sizes for people. I don't know, but this is a minus as well. Regarding this dropper post, I found that the Shimano lever to activate it was quite hard. So it's usually the first time you're using it of the day. There is this little kind of friction and you need some strength to activate it. But as soon as the cable started moving, then it was easy and fluid, and it was a great experience overall. But the first actuation of the day, very hard. Then the chain protector, it's very nice, it's very soft, and there is one on the upper part of the frame, but this one is, I had to put collars over it because it was unsticking itself even when it was just out of the box. So the finish here is not that good, and since it's not something that is screwed, I don't know how to stick that back. And putting on a 6,000 euros bike collars to maintain a part in place makes no sense. So I think here having all the chain protector parts and all the things that are not pure carbon bolted to the frame, like it is under the frame, like the bash protector is under the frame, would be a nice idea. And I don't know, they're still using glue and that makes this part hard to take off, hard to maintain, and hard to stuck back, because you're gonna at some point use some glue that's not gonna be respectful of the carbon material, and you're gonna damage it at some point. So it's too bad. They should have thought it otherwise. Then, like a lot of new bikes, I don't really know why that is, but they're delivering the bikes, even the highest end ones, with a cassette plastic backplate. well, I'm not 12 years old, I'm not 5 years old, this is not a Walmart or a Carrefour bike, you know. And the first jump that I made on the bike, the little plastic piece of this plate broke, and then the plate moved around, and this made this super high-end bike make a shitload of noise. So one, I don't know why it's here. It should have been removed when the assembly of the bike was finished. Two, if it was to be kept here, either put something that is high enough quality so it can withstand the use of the bike, like enduro races and such, or don't put it at all, or make it easy to remove, because this is a full plastic piece. So you have to have a cassette remover, you have to have all the material necessary to remove the cassette from your bike and take that broken piece of plastic off. Plus, I don't know who needs more plastic in his life or her life, but it's 2021, so this piece should never exist. Then, little issue is that the bike is delivered with a lot of things, a lot of interesting tools and such, but with this 1,500 euros wheels that I know is delivered from the factory with the tubeless valves, the tubeless valves were nowhere to be found in my accessories kit. I had lights, cool, because it's the law, I know, they had to in France deliver the bikes with plastic pedals and the lights, fine, but please put the tubeless valves in. Like, please try to do everything you can so the bike is really usable as soon as you take it off the box. Some other brands accept to set your bike tubeless when it's delivered from the factory. I know it's a little bit more complicated, but someone who's buying a bike that is over 2,500 euros will want to have his bike set up tubeless. So I don't know, push an upsell here, but give the customers the option to either have the components they need to set their own bike tubeless, or set it up tubeless from the factory. It would be much nicer. Then let's talk about the super progressive kinematics of the shock on the frame. You know, the way the frame reacts to the different bumps with the shocks, and there is this kinematics here that you know, with the leverage ratio, the anti-squat and the other metrics will define the way your bikes handle the shocks. It's working quite well with their three-phase geometry. Like, the first part of the travel is super supple, and then you've got more support in the middle, and then it's becoming more progressive and harder to reach the end of the travel. All of that is, you know, it makes sense on a trail bike, and from what I've tested, it works quite well. But this geometry is so progressive out the back that even with 30% sag, and even, you know, leading big to flats like jumping stairs on a flat ground, you will have a hard time, you know, bottoming out the shock, which is good, no problem. As long as you can use almost all the travel, I'm perfectly fine with that. But the travel on a bike must be used front and back in a way that is consistent and balanced. If it's not, and you've got the rear of the bike that will remain a little upper in the travel than the front, you've got a balance issue, and you're going to dive up front. And if your bike is a little bit too short, or you're not experienced enough to ride a bike fast that have a wrong balance, then you're going to go over the bars. And this is when this happens, sometimes your collarbone breaks. This is what happened to me with a previous drive that, again, I bought in small following Canyon's recommendation 5 years ago. And yeah, well, this is an experience I won't want to do again. So to compensate this, I had to add not one but 2 volume spacer in the fork, following the recommended settings with 15% sag, and only then I could have a consistent use of travel back and forth. And with such a high-end bike that is brand new and that's supposed to be used in enduro races conditions, I think that those setups that those suspension setups should be balanced directly from the factory, either by putting a smaller volume spacer on the rear shock to make it more easier to use all the travel, or to put those 2 tokens up front as soon as the bike leaves the factory, because those 2 tokens, I had them aside, I'm very lucky, but for someone who's receiving this bike, is gonna have the suspensions all wrong setup, even if the sag is set properly, the rebound and the compression settings are set properly. So I think this should be fixed as well. Then the suspension settings, I had to dig those information onto the Fox website and to really have the front and rear suspension set up properly, because on those high-end bikes, whether it's the 4,000 euros one or the 6,000 euros ones, which basically have the same suspensions, except one is Kashima, the other one is not, which makes absolutely no difference. They have the same settings. For the fork, it's a grip to damper with high speed and low speed compression settings and high speed and low speed rebound settings. And so I would have expected, like I've seen on the Norco website, a calculator that tells me what's your height, what's your weight, what's your kind of riding, how experienced are you, and then you make one click and they tell you, okay, this is how you need to set up your fork, this is how many clicks you should put, this is how many tokens you should put, this is the tire pressure you should run. That's a great experience. If you go on the Canyon website, this is much poorer. You will have a hard time to make 3 clicks finding the configurator, and then you see 2 videos with someone doing something, I don't know what, and then a simple screenshot of the Fox website recommended settings only for the suspension the pressure, you know. So again, here there is a lot to do to make the consumer's experience better and to have a basic settings of the bike that would be either right from the start, I don't know, take my weight when I order the bike and ask me where I ride or what I ride, or provide a tool like Norco is doing that helps me set up the bike in an easy way, and please provide as well the number of tokens that I would need for that. This basically costs nothing. So after that, there is a very nice hole in the frame on the under the top tube that is supposed to allow me to screw some tools holders or something like that. So I know Voltooth's Components is doing stuff. I know some other brands might provide solutions for that, but I thought that most of them use 2 holes and not 1. That's why on the new Proof Mega you've got 2 holes. That's why on the Transition Patrol you've got not 1 but 2 holes. So I wonder why Canyon only put 1 hole in the frame. That's really a question. So if some of you guys or girls know what kind of tools holders can be screwed in a frame with only 1 hole, I'll take it. Post it in the comments. Then the tire spec on this bike, it wasn't information that was very clear. One part of the product page on the website, it was specified Exo Plus casing, which is a little bit heavier, like heavy trail ride, and on the spec below in the same page you could read Exo. So I was wondering what is going to happen with the bike, what will be the tire. So you got a Maxxis DHR2 on the back, Max Terra, and it's an Exo Plus 1. That's nice. Sorry, that's not an Exo, and it makes the overall weight of the bike even more impressive with a little more solid tire out the back from scratch, and it's an Exo tire up front. So my thinking here, but maybe it's just because I ride in some alpine terrain, but it's that they should have gone a little bit, you know, further with this, putting a double down tire at the rear and an Exo Plus tire up front. So I also noticed that the Exo tire up front was wallowing like that, and it's something that I encountered already with a lot of Exo casing tires from Maxxis recently, and that's why I stopped using Maxxis, because I really think that the quality went lower, and here the tire is brand new and it's already wallowing, giving you the impression that your wheel is not straight, and that's not the case. That's just the tire that is, you know, a little bit deformed. And again, that's a detail that's not really cool on a $6,000 bike or even a $2,000 bike. You can buy a $500 bike or $200 bike, and most of the time the tire will be true. I don't know why Maxxis is having those issues, but they do. It's not a functional issue, it's more like a feel issue though. I had no problem with the tire otherwise. Then the rear derailleur hose, the way this part comes out of the frame and in the derailleur is quite surprising, because it makes a curve that's really go from the frame to the outside, like a hook for branches or trees or rocks. And I wonder how long this hose will remain intact before it's getting hit or hooked by an element on the trail. So it's weird because all of this cable routing integration is perfect, but when this hose comes out of the frame, it becomes extremely exposed, and much more exposed than on any other bike I saw so far. So let's see in the Enduro World Series if one of the Canyon riders use this, use this bike and use any technique to reinforce or, you know, stick back the cable hose closer to the frame to avoid these kind of problems. But this here, sooner it's a catastrophic thing waiting to happen. I don't know how, I don't know why it's happening like that, but everything is so perfect everywhere else on the bike, and here you've got this big, you know, loop that goes hooking for stuff on the terrain. Weird. Yes, so the components of this bike are extremely high-end. It's a dream build, really, the LTD edition that I had, and the edition just below this one is just as good, but with aluminum wheels, because there is no functional differences between XTR and XT, either for the brakes or for the transmission. It's just the materials that changes, and the XTR is a little bit lighter, but you're never going to be able to feel the difference either for the brakes or for the transmission. But I already have some XT 4 pistons brake, the latest ones on my e-bike, and I have a wandering bite point problem at the rear. And here with the XTR, they're brand new and I've got the same problem. Sometimes the first time I brake, the brake lever goes very close to the handlebar, I release it, and the next time I need to brake, I can barely move it before it hits the disc. And this kind of inconsistent behavior is really dangerous on the trail, and I've saw a lot of other reviews telling people about this problem, and yeah, it's terrible. I didn't have the chance to bleed the brake, but I shouldn't have to. This is a brand new bike, and something tells me that if this issue is reported everywhere on every kind of reviews, then it's not something that's going to go away very soon. So yeah, the rear brake, even if it's the XTR top of the range, you might have a hard time to have a consistent bite point here. Then another issue with the bike is that unlike other brands, I'm talking nuke proof, I'm talking Canyon, I'm talking Specialized, so they can be direct to consumer, they can be retail brands. They more and more often cover the exposed part of the frame, like the bottom of the tube of the front triangle, or where the heels are going to rub the frame. They often cover that with some plastic film, so the bike can, survive a little bit longer to the elements. And I think this is something extremely important, even more so on carbon frames, because you're always a bit worried, and any extra layer of protection is something you'll take. So on every bike I bought so far, this is an extra step that I had to take almost all the time, except for YT. you can see that people designing the bikes and picking the options are riders as well, and those have been protected from scratch. I just took them out of the box and they're protected, and I don't get why such a high-end bike promising like enduro abuse and use, etc., is not protected from scratch. This costs nothing. If you buy a OnePlus phone, it will come with a screen protector as well. So here I was kind of expecting this kind of attention to detail. It's not here. It's something you're going to have to do yourself. Then yes, that's basically all for the bad points. So as you can see, I'm very detailed oriented and I know exactly what I expect from a bike. So I think it's more important to know the flaws of a product than the specs of a product when you buy it, because products, either it's a fan, a computer, a bike, they're becoming better and better every day, and it's more about can I live with the flaws than will I like the features, right? The features are on all websites and product discovery descriptions, etc. So here I wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about the flaws of the product, because if you can dismiss them all, you'll be, I think, extremely happy with it, at the condition that you pick the right size. So I hope you like this review. I'm sorry if it was a little bit long. Please drop a like or a comment or a dislike if you thought the review was bad. Please ask your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And just know that I paid this bike with my own money. It was not a sponsored post already, and that I'm gonna send the bike back, not because it's bad, because I could have lived with all the flaws, but because the size configurator on the website and their advices on what size I should take is completely wrong. Basically, if you're taller than 1.75 m, measure your instream, and if you can, upsize. That's all, folks. Thanks a lot, and see you around for other videos. Bye.